to land right here, right now. Just noticing your body responding to breathing. Not having to ignore anything that's really present and alive in the body. Giving it some acknowledgement. Starting to notice what you can feel in the body. Attuning to the energy of us sitting here together. And allowing the mind to wander, to feel and sense what is there.
I was just noticing what a relief it is to be invited into breath and body awareness. I get so tired by just talking for the sake of talking, and actually to be in the intimacy of breathing next to another human is just delicious. Like, it just makes me feel energized and present in a way that small talk doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be tuned into that changing picture of what's happening here feels really exciting. I'm kind of like, oh, what now? Where are we headed?
Our bodies are constantly showing us and guiding us and shaping the direction of our lives if we listen to it. And what are we missing by not having this in connections? When we override this and go into the small talk, what are we actually missing out on? When I learned to actually acknowledge, whilst I'm in connection with somebody else, my body is giving me all of these signals.
So I'm really curious about whether the messages, sensations that come through your body when you're on your own, like processing or thinking about things, is different to what comes online when you're with another human being? Is that different? Like, what's your experience of that?
When you're with another, both of your energies are going to be communicating, and it amplifies what you're able to feel. And so each of us carry our stories. If some of our stories mirror and like clash, our energy will start to evoke that clash to be brought to the surface, whatever that fear is that's being held in the body. So if we're by ourselves, for example, and we have these fears, we can't access them because we are going to hide them, and our protection mechanism is going to be around them. So by coming in connection to another being, it's can we build a safety and regulation to meet those fears together? Yeah, and so can we start to allow that to unravel where we hold it tenderly, or somebody makes us feel uncomfortable. We can protect those parts and be like, no, it was your fault, you did this, you said that, when actually there's something to be explored around the feelings so that we can expose. Or it could be the polar opposite. There could be a feeling that feels so safe and so wonderful with another, and so therefore you can let down the guards of blocking and protecting yourself from having deeper and stronger connections. And this is what we discover from being in company with each other. So the separation, the fear separates, and the love grows. Connections.
Yeah. And my sense is that actually we can't really evolve into who we are without being in relation to others. And exactly for that reason, like those uncomfortable edges that just wouldn't be apparent to us if they weren't being brought to the surface, and also without the holding and the safety and the kind of that co-regulation that comes from those kind of sweet, lovely connections that reinforce the message that, yeah, we're safe. Like, I think it's such an edge for humans at this time. I'm not sure if there's been a phase of humanity where this has been so juicy and alive and ready for exploration.
Yeah, and I really believe that there's so much in this world that people are questioning, okay, who and what can I actually trust? Who and what can I actually believe? So therefore, you have to build the trust and the belief in yourself, in your body, so that you can actually discern your way through life, at least having some anchor of, it's like tuning up our bodies to have the understanding to guide us when we're in a world full of conflicting messages.
In a world of kind of fake news and all sorts of nonsense, like really learning to trust the message that's here. Yeah. For me, for such a long time, I was escaping my body, because of my trauma. I didn't want to be in my body, and it has been such a revelation to find doorways in, to listen and deepen and connect, and for that to be the thing that guides me, that is unshakable. And then also when it gets shaken, to notice what's shaking it, like what makes you doubt yourself, like maybe some dynamic that plays into something from the past or reminds you of something energetically, and to have that self-awareness to recognise what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. Because I was exactly the same. I'd just get drunk all the time because I couldn't cope with these big emotions, and especially when my body was in physical pain from accidents and injuries. So then I would choose to numb out and distract because I had no idea that this connection was available. And so it got to a point where I literally questioned my life, whether I could continue living in pain every day when things are really uncomfortable in your body. It can be challenging to want to go there. So how the mind responds to what you can feel is actually such a vital way of exposing where the fears are, and those fears, those misaligned places within you, linking back to childhood trauma or things that have happened in the past that you might not even know are affecting how you're living today. The pain, the anxiety, the emotions that erupt in different situations, they are linked to what's happened in the past. And when you feel the body, you haven't even got to go into the story of what's happened, because the story is stored in the body as an energetic frequency, as a feeling. When your body is in a regulated state, there's a feeling that comes to the surface. It's not necessarily going to be as painful and deep as what happened in the past. It's going to be a representation of that feeling. And when you dissolve the fear around what the body is doing, that story that's contained in that fear, in that energy, can be released without you needing to speak about what's happened in the past. And because the body knows what to do. So when the mind can meet the fear of what the body is showing and not numb out, eject, but can observe, that's when the body's natural healing mechanisms can know how to dissolve and alchemize that held fear. There's not a mind concept of trying to work it out, the body does it.
Like to feel safe enough to be present enough for the mind to get curious, instead of just going into that familiar kind of story that doesn't really take you anywhere. Like it can, and you can't, I don't think you can work it out. Like you can try and make meaning or make sense, but that doesn't liberate you. When you were talking, I had this image of like Aladdin and the magic lamp, and it's like kind of rubbing the surface so that just more life force can be liberated and set free, like particles of light, like instead of being weighted down by this old story from the past, just to be set free from it.
You can reframe stuff, you can try and tell the story a different way, but it's only one part of it. Like whatever the mind is telling in a story will be linked somewhere in the body to an emotion. And that is the way to meet those fears around how the body feels, to then think, oh, okay, yes, I'm having some fear about this feeling, I don't like this feeling, it's really uncomfortable, But when I don't meet that with added fear of like, stop feeling this way, body, when you meet it with, okay, I'm with you and I'm curious about how you feel, and I'm just going to give you a bit of space, and that in itself is changing the story, because you're changing your mind's response with fear to acceptance, and it's a completely different dynamic. And the body relaxes. The body's like, oh, okay, I've got your attention, you're not fighting me away, when actually I'm just showing you the way to address this, so there doesn't have to be a fight anymore.
Like real permission. And it sort of strikes me that often it's not the thing that's painful, it's the resisting of the actually diving into the thing that you're bracing against. That's where the pain is, and actually the permission, the curiosity, the allowing, the feeling, like everything you're describing can completely transform everything.
Exactly, because the mind's so fixated on different parts of us that are trying to protect never having to feel that way again. So the numbing out desensitizes, because the amygdala of the brain remembers what happened in the past, and there's a whole army of protectors. Like, there's no way I'm ever going to feel that way again, even if it means I never feel again in my life. So you never feel the joy, you feel the love, the excitement. There's just a numbness. That's why things are getting more and more uncomfortable, I think, in people's lives. Anxiety is getting louder, more accidents, injuries, ailments are happening because of these protection mechanisms that we have to not feel. But they're all invitations, they're all the key to getting to the root of this. And what's worse, like living with all this discomfort and anxiety, and then having to manage what you can and can't do to try and avoid feeling anxious or to avoid having more pain, that's way more uncomfortable than giving the body some space. Give it a chance to let it communicate with you, learning to resensitize what you've once numbed out from, rather than going into the deep discomfort that the mind is protecting from how it once felt. There's actually a relief that happens from the body. It's going to come through in a completely different way, and it might be the body physically shaking, like shaking out and releasing. There might be an image or a colour or something that you can't really name that the body is doing. Like imagining your body like, oh, thank goodness, thank you for finally coming back to me. Mind, body together, not mind versus body.
And I think we're hungry for that. I think maybe we've learned that the mind can't give us the answers we're looking for. We need to look somewhere else. And instead of looking outside, to really go deep within and to unearth, that power and that magic.
It's going back to your Aladdin and the genie bottle. These stories, this energy of fear that is held in our bodies is like anchoring us down. Really, what I've noticed in my body, where that's taken me to find the emotional link and what it's related to. My knee, for example, this injury was like sort of bursting through my body to make me go to these places, because if I wouldn't ever do that otherwise, without the injury, without the discomfort, there isn't change, because you just carry on as you are. But when you have no choice but to face something, then embrace it. You can fight it and resist it and take medication and think, oh no, this is just how it is, I'm just going to have to learn to live with it. Or there's there's got to be a reason why this is happening, and explore it. So that's working with life versus fighting it. And what it opens out is an absolute miracle.
Because when you're describing that, like, my sense is that those fears are life extinguishing forces, almost like they're closing us down and making us small and constricting and contracting and becoming like just this little whisper of a human, when in fact life wants more life to move through. So it's like just meeting that with that presence in the body, the sensations, allows everything to kind of change and emerge and become sensational.
Yes, exactly that. You have two choices. You've got the fear path of, oh no, this is so bad, I'm just going to take medication, go to appointment after appointment, give all the power away. Or you can choose love. Like, okay, I've got you, I'm going to look after you. If you overcome your life's challenges and see them as opportunities, then you have a whole other perspective and opening. So my injuries have really taken me to those places directly. So the confusion and the lack of self-belief and lack of self-trust in myself has enabled me to attract the wrong sort of relationship. Where I've given my power away is almost like, okay, I can't work it out, I'm going to give my power away to you so that I can have a break. And that's been mistaken as love, and actually it's not at all. It's, I've given that power away. Like, here you go, will you look after me? Because I don't know how to look after myself.
I think that, like, that kind of self-abandonment in a way, when we turn away from the things in our systems that are uncomfortable, is a form of self-abandonment. So we abandon ourselves and maybe look for something or someone outside to rescue or to fill us up, and then actually to be so present and available to yourself that there's no unmet need there, and then what you bring into relationship with anyone is much more full and like you're connected with your wholeness.
When my body radar of anxiety has gone off, I've overridden it for that need of connection. And so as I've developed the connection with my body and sharpened up my intuition and the trust that I can hold myself, it's dissolved the ability for other people to manipulate and control, and me to allow that to happen.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how as we change and evolve, what might have felt compelling or engaging before just no longer even kind of speaks to us. It's like, oh, that's just got nothing for me.
Yeah.
And then you orient more towards the kind of life-affirming, healthier dynamics.
Yes, because that lesson that you needed to learn,
It's like a door has just shut.
yeah,
And then other doors open that maybe just create more life force.
and then you realise, actually, yes, I was choosing that all along. Therefore, you've got to take responsibility for that rather than blaming anybody else. Because as soon as we blame somebody else for anything, it's a complete waste of energy. Because you're never going to get an answer from that person. You're never going to get the resolve. You've got to see it from, rather than blaming somebody else, like, actually, what did that situation make me see about myself so that I could take my power back and not make the mistake or work around that energy that does close that door.
And owning that, and also I think owning that with that kindness, that often we're making unconsciously driven choices as well, like we're not even conscious of what's driving those choices. And I sometimes hear people kind of almost, it's like throwing themselves out of their own hearts for like being harsh with themselves, for blaming themselves for making poor choices, which in fact are just like energetic frequency choices. Like, it's not conscious, like none of us are trying to hurt ourselves consciously. And it happens, and then like how we meet that with more care, and it all comes back to the body, like that presence of really noticing everything that's being felt.
And I really believe it comes back to that ball of energy again, because I noticed with all the relationships that I chose, there was such a big pull. The connection was so strong, it was like a vacuum, like again, these two matches that needed to learn the lesson, they needed to be brought together so that this could expose this pattern that keeps on happening. So and then you could think, oh, why did I let that happen? I did it again. But actually it was meant to, so that energy then becomes dissolved and the door closes, but you have to go through it to observe it and notice, oh, hang on a minute, I made that choice. I'm feeling off here. I'm making a choice to doubt that feeling that feels off because of another reason. And so, yeah, it's these subconscious beliefs that are playing out amongst it. Whereas if you can see, okay, something feels off, and then if it's available to speak about and it's met, you know, you'll soon find out whether that person can hold your emotion or whether they're going to project something back or it's going to end in a conflict. I've said, you know, the connection is so strong, so it's obviously meant to be, when actually it's so strong because there's a big lesson, a huge lesson that needs to be overcome. I believe that you know, like when you feel really safe with somebody, there's no part of you that needs to be hidden. That is the marker point, not, oh, I can't say that to that person, or if I do this, they'll go mad. No, no, that is big. Bodily anxiety radars going off for a reason, and that's why it's so vital to acknowledge and understand the signals from your body. And the more you can understand that, that's going to guide your life to unconditional love.
There's so many ways we could go with this that I'm excited about. So I'm kind of like, there's all these things I want to explore. So the first one is that I've heard people say that when you feel like an intense kind of attraction to somebody, be very aware that that's often trauma bonding, and like not necessarily just in a couple relationship, but sometimes I've had kind of real obsessions with people I've met where, like, just as friends, where it feels kind of intense, and I've noticed that quite often there's just some, we might think of it as karmic, or there's just something really rich to explore there. But I'm so interested about how much it is like we're like Velcro and there's some wound or treasure to be discovered that is being activated by the other side of the Velcro and that other person, and it feels so compelling and intense because there's something really juicy there. And it might not be comfortable, and it might not be ever after love, it might be really itchy and difficult, but that intensity, like, I'm kind of curious, like, is that because my sense, and I'm curious whether what your sense of it is, that that's because there's some rich discovery to explore, but not to assume it's like everlasting love in a couple thing.
Yeah.
But it might actually just be some next layer of your evolution to explore what that's all about.
It could be a label of it's trauma bonding and whatever, you could go into the mind about an explanation around it, but actually that energy is so alive, and so it's like putting you into this vortex, because yes, there is something rich and juicy to be explored within that dynamic. The mind goes, oh, what is this? Is this my soulmate? Are we meant to be best friends forever? Or maybe this is the person I marry. Maybe it's none of that. Maybe there's a really good lesson that you two need to teach each other. And that energy is so strong, and that's why. Because there's something. And yeah, it might be comfortable, it might be uncomfortable, but that's the willingness to expand what you can feel and the flow of life.
Yeah, and where that energy is strong, that's life force, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, where there's strong energy, if we listen to that call, it's something enlivening about it. Because while you're talking quite often about the body, you are like touching sort of different parts, like you were describing about the relationship thing, and it seemed to be quite kind of solar plexusy, and then there's times when you're kind of gesturing towards your heart. And so if people are new to listening to body messages, are there any things you might share about that, or is it more individual depending on what's going on? Like,
No, that's a great question.
yeah.
Like, I find like solar plexus around the stomach, like the core of us, is where a lot of anxieties are. The theme would be your self-esteem, your confidence, your purpose. Stomach area is a lot to do with the theme of confidence and self-esteem, and so that anxious knot or those butterflies that people can feel just under the sternum. Feel the hard part of your sternum, and then it goes squidgy. If you press into there, this is a big indicator of how much tension is stored there, and just start massaging that part of you. And it's probably going to evoke some relatively strong sensations. So starting to get your mind a bit interested in those feelings. as you're massaging and testing how much you can press and what feels a bit too uncomfortable. And even building up this curiosity to notice what happens when you press into that area. Because we have so much accumulated stress and tension in the stomach and around the organs that are held there. And so this is sort of starting to help disperse that, but also give you an awareness of how your mind responds to a little bit of discomfort. How does it feel for you?
So it felt quite tender and painful to start with, and then as I did more of it, I just started to feel really comfortable with meeting it, and actually it feels more comfortable as it's gone on. And I think something about your presence is giving me permission just to kind of explore. And I know that that's a place where particular dynamics can set off, where I feel like I'm not in my centre and my power. That's where I'll feel that I'm being rattled. That's probably, I would say, the part of my system that is least flowing. Like, yeah, I can feel that around certain people where I can almost feel like I'm being emotionally manipulated through my solar plexus. I can feel when people kind of want more from me, like they're almost like pulling me in than I'm willing to give, and it doesn't feel safe for me to open.
Yeah.
So I'm really aware of dynamics there, and I'm also aware when I'm trying to set boundaries, how I really feel it there, how tender that can be.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing you say that. And when you're in those connections and you notice some discomfort, like consciously trying to relax your centre, to like find that softness within yourself.
Oh, interesting. I've always thought I had to put a fiercer boundary over it, but you're like, be more relaxed, be more soft.
Yeah, because if you are in your body, nobody else can be.
Interesting.
And I think the fear of having to protect your energy from someone is it's actually making that happen.
Yeah. Okay, this is such a big theme for me. Yeah, to soften.
Yeah, to knowing that it's okay, I can hold my own. Because if you're like constantly thinking, oh no, I need to protect my energy from that person, it's inviting fear in.
Interesting. I'm aware that there's, when that kind of fear gets triggered in me, there's a dissociation and a freeze, and I just disappear. So I'm not filling my space. I've left my body, I've left the building.
Yeah.
And it's like just bringing that awareness in to hold that.
Yeah.
But interesting. Yeah, and it happens much less often now. It's very, very unusual, but it used to happen all the time. But that gives me a really helpful thing to work with. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Because yeah, if you're in a freeze and like fearful and you're literally dissociated, you've disconnected, then your body is more at risk of being drained or siphoned of energy.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're there, you're relaxed, you're breathing, you're conscious of what's there, what's showing in your solar plexus around your stomach, you've got the anxiety and you just breathe into that. Breathe into it and hold your own. You like maybe send some words of reassurance like, yeah, this is okay. I'm noticing this and I will find the moment where I choose to leave.
Breathe into it, hold your own.
Breathe into it, hold your own. Yes, that's a good one.
Love it.
But yeah, there's so much that goes on around here, and even just choosing to acknowledge that feeling by massaging this point is going to be really helpful. And I do Chinetsang, which is an abdominal massage, working with the different organs here to really decongest what gets stored and accumulated emotionally, the different organs, the liver, the kidneys, the large intestines, and they all have an emotional link. So it's almost like a decoding that can happen. if somebody feels particularly tender around their liver, like we can know, okay, yeah, that's something to work with. And then there might be an instant story that comes from the mind, and then a frequency, another reaction from the body that just sort of sets off this thread to get to this underlying belief that's creating the distortion. Or
It might be slightly different for different people, but I think there's stories we have about like the emotions we're allowed to feel and the ones that we're not. I'm really comfortable in those deep, dark places, like, and almost to an unhealthy extent. Like, it's like I need to kind of sometimes not spend so much time there, I think, in an unhealthy way. Anger, like, and I hear that a lot from women in particular.
Yeah, I do too. It's like when I'm angry, I don't know what I will do. So there's like a real big, I don't trust myself when I'm that angry, so I'm not even going to go there. And where's that? But that suppressing and trying to manage and hold that anger and push it down, like blocks opportunities for life, because that anger, that is fuel, that is energy that can be used to create something. It's not necessarily, I'm so angry so I'm going to go and punch someone's head off, which when I was a kid I used to be quite punchy.
As soon as you started talking about anger in that quite embodied way, I felt it in my hips, and then I felt my jaw go, ooh. And that's when I get my migraines quite often. There's like, I've gone, and my jaw gets really locked, and I've not been able to give voice to stuff. So just that really interesting hips and jaw both went, it's like my body was listening when you were talking about anger. Like,
and of course, like the hips and the jaw, the sacral chakra and the jaw are connected. You know, we could get deep and juicy into like sexual shame and sexual experiences where the nose haven't come through, and
and then you've overridden your own body. What I'm hearing from a lot of people at the moment, women in particular, not knowing what to do around like the Epstein files coming out and it validating a lot of like experiences of exploitation, abuse, and like feeling really like, oh, thank goodness, like this stuff is coming more into like conscious awareness, but like what do we do with that? Like how do we like meet that? Like I feel it in my jaw. I've got so many people messaging me talking about like this kind of like sacred rage. Like what do we do and not cause more harm with it? Like
you can overindulge in reading all about it, and actually that's not very helpful. Whatever that story has evoked in you is what to be with in the body, because that is going to be a representation of something within you that needs some work around. That theme of the rage and the it's a big one, and giving our power away, and also stories of not wanting it to be true, not maybe there's a past experience where it wasn't quite right, but you have a protective story around, oh, it wasn't as bad as what it was, and so like it being really loud to us now, it's like there's no hiding.
That's so interesting. I've really realised how I've been gaslighting my own experiences, and then I'm like, there's something very validating about that, which makes it compelling but also not healthy and helpful. So it's like to dip into things and then to kind of turn away and turn in, and to keep exploring what's emerging in this vessel.
It's like Googling a symptom and reading about it.
Mind.
Exactly.
Not body.
Exactly. So you're like getting further and further away, trying to find the answers and the understanding from those stories that you're reading, versus that story has enlivened the rage, the anger, the tension in the jaw, and that becomes your next checkpoint. That's done its job, thank you, no need to go there, and now be in and give space somatically to what you can notice in the body.
So not looking for answers, solutions out there, always dropping back in, deep in what's true here, somatically, not mentally.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's more self-sabotage.
Yeah.
You're just evoking more and more fear.
Yeah.
You're just erupting it, and just this big stirring pot of
Yeah.
self-sabotage. And like, it's like having a wound in your leg, and just like every time you read it, it's like press,
Yeah.
press, 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 press.
Yeah.
Okay, stop pressing and actually feel that wound so
Yeah.
it can close up nicely.
Yeah. Yeah. Potent. We could talk for hours.
Yeah,
Probably.
exactly.
Shall I stop it?
Hello.